Okay, quick, before we get started, I've got a big announcement. I've just launched my new Substack channel at drewtv.substack.com. That's drewtv.substack.com. I've been holding off on doing this for a while because I wanted to make sure that I could give subscribers more bang for their buck than the $8 and change they're going to spend a month. And here we are. With the subscription, you'll get access to paywall-only content, which are going to include private Zoom call live streams with former guests and friends of the show. We'll set those up kind of with like a theme, and then we'll just all get in there and see where it goes. You also get 10% off across the board on everything at all Drew TV websites, which now include jonesplantationfilm.com and the Barnum World Fourth Wall merch site, and more sites coming soon. You'll also have a community of like-minded people you can connect with. Very important. And I'll be periodically dropping bonuses and things for subscribers. Look, I'm never going to be financed by the Hollywood system, nor do I want to be. I made a decision several years ago to not be chained by that system, and I'm trying to build something outside of it. And so if you like what we're doing here, sign up. If you're watching this and you've already signed up, thank you. Okay. This episode was brought to you by Jones Plantation Film. If you haven't seen the indie cult classic Jones Plantation Film yet, go watch that film. It's available now at jonesplantationfilm.com. That's jonesplantationfilm.com, and on most major platforms.
Bo Jones!
Lastly, my new film Barnum World is out, and per our Indiegogo campaign promise, it's available for free. So the best place to watch that would be at my Drew TV YouTube channel or my Drew TV Rumble channel.
Barnum statements only work if you can't recognize them. That's important.
Now, time to start this episode of Maverick in the Machine.
Insanity is what I call society. Don't tell me what to do, don't tell me how to be. I don't trust the government, I know they lie to me. They could like my body, yo, for my soul and mind to breathe.
I've got a Maverick in the building today. The first other fiction filmmaker I've had on. Teace Snyder, man. Thanks for coming
thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
Yeah, you're a little low. Your mic's a little low.
More.
Kick it up, will you?
Hopefully.
Teace, Teace Snyder. Have had plenty of, documentary filmmakers on. I think real filmmaking, we can get into this, maybe we won't, but I think filmmaking is fiction filmmaking, and then there's documentaries. That's a whole different, it's in the same vein, but it's a different art form.
I hadn't actually really made documentaries myself until this last year when I did 6 mini ones going into a variety of different people, and that's when I met you for the first time at Anarchapulco. And the experience of building a documentary, for me, I approached it as a filmmaking lens, which is basically that the set and setting is telling its own story, and then it just becomes this thing that kind of like explains itself to you. So it was still like this artistic crafting of a narrative lens through which I viewed reality. And I don't know, I found them kind of like they're both fiction in their own way. Even if it's a documentary, it felt like building with fictional components of what I was observing. And so I don't know. That's I know what you're saying. It's like it's a different thing, though. Like what fiction is different.
Yeah, it's a different thing. You're not dealing with actors. It's a documentary. It's its own. It's like there's films, which is the actors, and fiction. Although you're 100% right. Like the idea that a documentary is somehow it's like the truth. It's still through the lens of the filmmaker. You're saying what you need to say. I did the only actual like documentary because the last one I did Barnum World, that was a mockumentary. But the only documentary is this crazy one, this absurdist one called Lord of the Freaks. But I had a story I was telling from the get. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I had a plan. I laid it out. You know what I mean? And so like this is what's going to happen. I don't know. I just don't. It's just it's too easy to make it. Like this is the thing that bothers me. I'll hear people say the documentaries are so much harder, and I'm like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Maybe if you got to go to the war zone, you get your ass shot off. But creatively, forget it. It's an editor's medium. I could literally track in on a pile of dog shit and make a documentary that's watchable, maybe. But when you have actors involved in fiction and writing, there's so many things that can go wrong that this thing is unwatchable and you're through. Whereas in a documentary, I can get some footage, I can make it work and make it editable so it's presentable. Where if I have a fiction film and the acting, I say this all the time, if you're doing a fiction film and your acting is shit, you're finished. Just pack it up and go home. You got nothing. There's no fixing bad acting.
Yeah. Okay. So like, same page, I guess. Like, a lot of people don't think of fictional filmmaking as being planned as meticulously as it actually is. And that's different depending on everyone's kind of like approach to the art form. Fine. Yeah. But generally speaking, the better you plan for a production, the more smooth that production will go. Like, theoretically, that's the mindset. If we prepare for it better, it will be better prepared. So documentary, you're right. You're basically just capturing things on the fly. It almost is war zone footage inherently itself. And then you're stitching that together later in a way in which if you just like allow yourself complete creative, like whatever you want it to be, you can turn something into whatever you want it to be later. Where previously the thing that is art that we're making in a preparatory way, to have actors on set at a particular time in a particular day, to wear a particular wardrobe that goes with a particular haircut at a particular time in that narrative structure, it's a very planned thing. So it's one of those things where it's like the documentary is the thing where, yeah, the lens for reality is where your heart takes you. For a narrative, it's something that you had to build so far in advance that people never would have imagined it. So it's not the way people think of the filmmaking process, those years in advance.
Yeah, it's just like anything else of the fiction. Well, the film, like the preparation, it's like you're going to war. If you go to war unprepared, you're going to get your ass shot off, right? Well, so, okay, I'm so glad you came on, because I forgot how much I love talking to filmmakers about this kind of stuff. Before we get going, though, can you tell the audience just where they can find you? I'll obviously put links in the show notes for the delight of the audience, and then we'll talk about it at the end. But where can people find you? You know, that kind of thing.
Sure. So like, I'll do a quick like rundown of my background and what it is. Like, so yeah, writer, director, producer, editor, actor, illustrator, podcaster, blah, 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 advanced researcher. You know, I do a lot of different things. Autodidactic, been in the truth movement for about 12 to 15-ish kind of years, depending on how you clock an awakening and then the trajectory of trying to get active yourself. And so people can find me and my work primarily at Teace, teace.ca, because I'm in Canada and that's my name, Teace. So teace.ca, that's where you can find books, short films, movies, the series I'm doing right now, which is called Conspiracy Synergy, and that's at conspiracysynergy.com. And then I also co-host AM Wake Up on Wednesdays with Steve McQueen. So those are just a few kind of different avenues to go about pursuing what I've been up to.
AM Wake Up's a good show. People should check that out. Where can people find
Rumble.
that show?
The other ones, and like, so if you go to conspiracysynergy.com, bottom right hand corner, it'll be a link to the weekly AM Wake Up.
He's always posting that he puts sponsored or hosted by WeXChat. What is that?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that it's a joke about Elon Musk being on camera talking about how he intended to purchase Twitter in order to turn it into the WeChat for America. So it's a joke about Elon Musk's platform being the WeChat of America in the gradual consolidation of media and also the soon to be rollout of the currency that goes with it and the rebranding of it as X and blah, blah, blah. So that's what it's.
The Panopticon. He's making I mean, like,
Steve's great. Like, but he came out with this shirt that has a reference that only like 1,000 people in the world are going to get or something. And it's like, so there's a certain range of degree to which you will understand the layers of the joke that he's making about like the Mad Max World Panopticon era that we live in. Yeah.
He was in it. He was in like a beef. He texted me last night. He was in a beef with Hotep or Hotep's. Did you see all this?
Yeah. So Twitter? That's Hotep or Hotep's guy on the side. I don't know.
I think it's Hotep's minion, like the guy Hotep Daddy, or there's a bunch of Hoteps. I don't think it was like the Hotep.
I just know Hotep Jesus, and he seemed like he's all right. I know I was only on.
Yeah, he seems.
I don't even know if I was on YouTube Union with him or if I was just listening to the episode. But he's been on there. The other guy, but I'm not familiar with the beef. No.
I like Hotep. Hotep's been done, told you, or whatever. He's got the whole thing going. He's not dumb. He's a smart guy. He's an interesting guy. Okay, we're getting sidetracked. So where were we before? We were talking about filmmaking, acting, documentaries. Oh, so where are you from? Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Iowa, so I actually
immigrated
immigrated to Canada when I was 3, but I grew up here, and then I had family in the States, so I'd visit one of them in some different state about a month of the year my entire life. So I've been back and forth, went to film school in New York, always keep coming back here to Edmonton, which is where I am currently. It's awful. Canada's kind of like a really gradual, like Silent Hill, the video game, gradually kind of like losing itself to a communist hellscape, like woke dystopia where everyone has to be pathologically polite and not actually say anything. So it's like the joke I use is "new do to boot it, get her done, don't you know? Yeah, boy, goal, eh?" That's basically speaking Canadian. And as long as you keep it within that margin, then it's not going to become like the Gulag Archipelago with hockey sticks. So I'm stuck in this fucking hell show, even though I'm not really like vibing with the locals. And you can kind of tell from the way that I speak, which would be closer to kind of like a New Yorker, only without the accent. Yeah.
And it's the weather's really nice.
Yeah, that's the other wonderful,
weather,
the other
buildings.
accent to what we have going on is that it's a frozen hellscape in addition to the social hellscape. Yeah.
So the communism that's happening there, the dystopian kind of technocracies, that's not like news media. That's actually
dude, it's like it's this really weird. So much of like what the ambiance of the interpersonal feeling of tyranny is socially acquiescing to a different standard at a different time. And so you can almost think of like casting the aroma of decay in a dystopian film or something. And you would have different kind of like keynotes to signify how far gone people still are. So here I'd say that it's that every day I'll see someone driving around in their car wearing a mask when they're the only one in the car. And that's just like that's a normal thing I'll see in this city. And it's like, it's about 1 million people. And it's spread out. It's like if someone puked urban infrastructure that was copy and paste Lego pieces, and then it just became as wide as it could be. That's Edmonton, and we have the world's second largest mall. So that's where I live. Yeah,
that's where Berwick's from, Edmonton, right? I believe that.
Yeah. If anyone else wants to know
I see him, he
a guy in the movement, yeah, he's from there.
Dude, you got to make a film about that. Like, because it reminds me, because what's happening now is Fabian socialism, which is different than it's like communism in first gear, it's socialist communism with technocratic economic systems. So it's like this marriage, and it's very slow. They knew that the communism they were doing, like Russian, was just too fast, and it was just too torturous for people. So they have to just do the boiling frog thing. Dude, you should, because like, it reminds me of like a Clockwork Orange. You need to do like your Clockwork Orange and shoot that thing in Edmonton. Use the brutalist architecture. That's what you need. I'm on board with that.
I've got all these weird fantastical ideas that capturing the horror that is my waking life in this shithole should be put on the back burner to instead try and enact some sort of like short-term revolutionary impulse in the limited window of time where we still have internet available to us, because I really don't know how this thing's going to go in a free conversational landscape unless it's a guided awakening and they want to hijack conspiracy in the mainstream. And so for me, like, because I'm trying to figure this whole thing out as like not just stories I can tell, but where the hell are the people who wrote the story that we're living in trying to take this hell, That's how a lot of like my decision
making. They want control. They want
centralized control. Right. But I'm saying like my decision in what I make now as an artist is what are these fuckers going to do to us, and how can I get the average person to understand what the fuck is going on? Yeah.
Well, if you make your version of, because to me, film is still the most powerful medium, and when the reason why people aren't going to the theaters is because there's nothing worth watching. That's a whole other conversation, because I think that's another psyop to get people from not going to the theaters, because it's one of the last communal experiences that we have, besides like going to listen to music, which is loud and booze and everything. Where the films, you go in, you watch something amazing, and like sometimes I get up and I'm like, I'm almost uncomfortable. Like I just had this weird experience with all these people I don't know. I used to, when I was younger, just run out because I couldn't do the credits because I was too like uncomfortable with this crowd of people. Like I don't do that anymore. I purposefully stay to the credits just to have that moment. But I went to this, not to go off, but I went on this period where I went to all the movies that were out, like all the main ones, And I realized that they're making these. When you look at these psyops, it's always like there's a guy at the top, there's somebody at the top shooting the cannon off at the top of the mountain, then creating the avalanche or creating the tidal wave. And all along the tidal wave, people ride it, and there are different levels and different reasons. Some people like the tidal wave. Some people are using the tidal wave for their own benefit. But the tidal wave is to destroy cinema and get people in front of their little phones to watch TikTok videos. I think they've discovered that they can control people's minds a lot quicker and easier and more efficiently that way. And also to destroy anything communal that we have as human beings. But I still think it's still a 100-foot screen. The sound is incredible. It's an amazing experience. And people want to see great films and go to the theater. I'm telling you, the analog thing is important to people. There's just in anything that remotely looks like it's going to be something good, like the latest Top Gun. I went to that twice. It's a good movie. It's not a great film. It's a great movie. And it was packed, and everybody, everybody's wants that. If you can create something, it's still there. You just have to, I think I'm gonna harp on this. You doing your Clockwork Orange in Edmonton, that's something you could do. I watched Hold Me, and I watched your feature film Hold Me, and then I watched your short Blindfold. The darkness and the depression of Hold Me, if you could transmigrate that into a little more comedy and some utopia, some dystopia, like the Clockwork Orange, because Clockwork Orange is actually really funny when you watch it a certain way. That would be amazing.
Okay, well, Hold Me was shot in Edmonton, so for how I got part of that darkness and the depression, because for anyone who wants to know what Hold Me is, it's a story about a woman whose job it is to hold and console people who are being voluntarily euthanized. It's set in an ambiguous location in the United States in order to be left open to interpretation for what people want to do with it, based on their assumptions in their own mind as the subject applies to them, because grief is a deeply personal thing. So when you make a film that just brings out your own personal feelings, your own assumptions, your grief comes with it. So everyone's going to engage with the film in a different way. And it's set in a very dark and morose tone because it is end of life in an industrialized kill factory that is the modern medical science apparatus that exists around all of us, set in Edmonton, no less. So holy crap, that almost makes it like this horror movie-esque sort of background that Hannah Fearman, who's largely known for her part in the VHS franchise as being a succubus, is starring in. So it's one of those things where it definitely has that tonal painting to it. As far as a lot of the notes that you brought forward and what you were talking about there, it's like the communal shared experience of going to film. I seriously think it's already dead. I think that's more of a nostalgic thing that different generations had because of their upbringing. I think what they successfully managed to do through the micro traumatizing in what was done over the period of lockdowns, and I won't say COVID because I don't think that was a thing. I think it was just the interval of time when they were doing this human experimentation campaign that they successfully pulled off in the social apparatus, much akin to how in Vietnam, what was going on in the kill lab kind of experiment that was the war was much more powerfully reflected based on the domestic policy and whether or not you're able to send people to that war, drafting them. So they sort of successfully drafted all of us and our attention in a window of time where they stepped on us and fractured our ability to connect with another person. So it's one of those things where it's like this really profound social psychological maneuver has already been successfully done and achieved. And I think they've killed these industries that they now just dangle around the flesh of in front of people who are largely just zombies and just want to sink their teeth into the lowest denomination that they share together based on likes and retweets. And the actual social apparatus has had 5 bullets in the back of its head successfully already. So I don't know, man. We'll see where it goes with this, but that's my take on it.
No, because the problem with your take is that they cannot kill it. It's part of being a human being. The only way they kill is kill all of us off, which remains to be seen.
Okay,
they cannot kill it.
The history of large cinematic shared experiences in the Western world, as far as I'm aware, are ISIS theaters. And that was something that was shared between Theosoph and Freemasonists as a way in order to get entire towns grouped together in order to basically entrain them along a similar programmed operating system mindset. You can look at a parallel for a technological emergence of the camera obscura, but if we look at how early things were being vanilla skied and other potential implications of this technology going further back in time, our very familiarity with the apparatus is potentially more built around how it successfully brainwashes us and not necessarily taking the reins of doing that to get out of things, which is why I like the way you describe Jones Plantation as a film that successfully exits the paradigm that all other films are built in. You know, that's like taking the technology and how we've been entrained by that technology and using it to liberate people. But I worry that the shared sense of what happens to us when we're all brought into one thing to watch it together, I think that raw psychological aperture has been fractured now. It's a different thing. So it's like we're living in Blade Runner now. We can't just pretend that it's the same environment as it was like in whatever horse and buggy movie they had us running when boomers were still operational. Yeah.
But I know we can't do that, but we also can't. We're never going to lose what it is to be human. And the other thing is that I would say stop worrying about anything and do what you're compelled to do. And so that's all you can do is to make your dystopian Edmonton film. I'm all in. I'm all in.
Oh.
And make it put some comedy in there, man, because you're a funny guy.
I can do the.
Like you should put some. You got to have some comedy. Make it a cult film, which is just it's pieces of every genre. You know, it's its own thing. It's a one-off. You would be surprised how many people. You know, I'll give somebody the only university that taught Jones Plantation was in Canada. It was a place called Brock University, and the professor's a hero, and he did get a lot of shit for it too, by the way. And they wouldn't allow him to. He was going to screen it. They wouldn't allow him. They wouldn't finance him. They did not allow him. They did like a perfectly Canadian thing where like they just didn't have the funding, quote unquote, all of a sudden. Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about first of all. So you're from Edmonton. Then were you always a filmmaker? Like, what did you?
So I started off. I saw the first Jurassic Park like 14 times in theaters when I was a kid because I was big into dinosaurs, and that was like a cultural momentum thing. I loved the soundtrack. You know, it was like great for me. So I wanted to do the sequel to that using plasticine and like toys and shit in my garage. And I realized really quickly that that's expensive as fuck, and I don't have any money, and it takes forever. So I'm not exactly gonna get very far on this road. What's cheaper and easier than that? Writing a book. So I'm like, okay, I'll start writing a book. And that was back when I was around, I don't know, 10 years older, a little bit younger. And already written kind of like a little bit of scripts at that point in order to dabble with the concepts, but it wanted to be more of a fully realized thing. So I started writing my first books and they sucked. And like my first 3 books are dog shit and they'll never see the light of day. And the 4th one I have out, they're all self-published, but it's one of those things where I rewrote it later, and that's a learning curve that I'm trying to describe of artistic inclinations, where they come from and how you eventually find your road and your voice. So what I put together with the pieces of my ability as a writer eventually lent itself to eventually becoming a filmmaker later in life when I was able to afford to go to film school. And that's what I did blindfold at, was in my thesis film at New York Film Academy. And that was the year that I spent in New York, and I went there to make that film because I had family there that I could stay with and make it affordable. Yes, even though I did work up like industrial jobs to be able to pay for a significant portion of it, as well as the film myself, ultimately it was one of those things where it was a topic chosen surrounding 9/11 truth to be filmed in New York with the family infrastructure in the places that mattered to be able to tell that story for what it is. And it's one of those things where the then bouncing back from that to hold me in Edmonton, which was shot in between New York and Edmonton, was a 5-year venture. And that's to try and create my first feature film independently, completely outside of studio help, and basically financed myself once again off of industrial jobs and cooking jobs and other stuff like that. So it's one of those things where only recently has the long-term kind of like process of developing myself as a storyteller and a filmmaker come to roost in the informational kind of like firsthand journalistic vestiges of what the truth movement has been and what it's become now, because it's been kind of a ride in and of itself. Blindfold was 9/11 truth themed. Hold Me was doctor assisted dying end of life care. They're both very controversial, but it's all kind of weaving together here in the now in a totalitarian reflection that is taking away our very ability to tell stories and determine our own direction. So it's kind of one of those things where my road was knowing where I wanted to go, but having to go through a spiral to get there.
Okay. There's a very Teace answer. Good. Tell me about Blindfold, because I usually hate shorts. I'm not just saying this because you're on the show. And I was like, it pained me to say this, but I actually like Blindfold. So I mean it. But here's the thing about it. I have this weird thing that I'm kind of like, it's very, very embryonic at this point. It's called the dissident artist movement. I don't know what it's going to be, but I have this like vision of Because when I was in LA, what I noticed was that I'd be on like sets and places, and particularly the crew people, there was a lot of really base crew people that just, you know, they didn't want to give up what they had. Maybe now, and I knew things were changing. And I just thought at some point, maybe if we make some, because I've got a film that I'm working on now called Crazy Eddie. If I get this thing out, when I get this thing out, it could be one of those moments where it's so many people are driven to that we can actually bring in, it'll actually be available to all those people that have to be in the regime at this point and work in regime media or regime filmmaking. They can actually have an opportunity to come over, because if we start drawing like a magnet talent in. But when I saw this film, I thought, wow, because you did this in New York. Would love to hear what the response was of your classmates. The decision that the father makes at the end of the film, I was like, there's not too many guys out there, or women, or filmmakers, you know, filmmakers in general, me and you, and probably a lot of people, so few people that we don't know, and maybe Mel Gibson, I don't know, that would actually make that decision in the film that the father makes at the end of the film. It would always be something, I was thought about it, because I'd be like, this was made by some dipshit NPC type filmmaker. It would be, there would be a brother and a sister. The brother would be the idiot conspiracy guy, and the sister would be trying to get him to stop, and the dad, and something terrible would happen because of his conspiracy theories, and the idiot boy would learn, you know. That's what would happen, but that's not what happened. However, it was a good looking film. I did catch, I have to do this to you, sorry. You can do this to me. I did catch the camera reflection and the tracking shot when they go around the picture, sorry.
Yeah,
that's a filmmaker thing, sorry. I should have, but it's everywhere. It's always there. It's the Where's Waldo. You can't help them. But I love the decision the dad made. I liked the little girl. I thought she was really good. She's really cute, and she did a really good job. I mean, the only thing I would have changed personally, I wouldn't have had that bitch ass dad crying in front of his daughter. I wouldn't have done that. Even though I liked him, he was good. I wouldn't have had him crying like that. I mean, come on, get a hold of yourself.
This was in a
but it's a good film. I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate it. It was in a less soul-crushing era of our lives, because it happened like 13 or 15 years ago is when I made that movie.
Right, so it wasn't such a big deal for him to cry. At this point, we know that it's been like we've been had the mail beaten out of us.
Yeah, but if you think back at that point, so it's like he's a 9/11 widower, and basically it's his first time actually seeing information about 9/11 truth, and it's presented by his preteen daughter, and they've gone through this whole fucking thing as a result of it up to this point. So he's not he's crying because of a multitude of different things that are kind of glistening on him in the background that he's not fully processing, and it isn't like a weeping bitch thing. It's literally like a single tear. So it's a
but he's like, she's like, Dad, shut up.
Yeah, suck it up, Dad. No. It's one of those things.
But I liked him though. He was good though. He was good. He did a good job of being caring and kind, but also manly. He did a good job. He was also in Hold Me. I saw he had like
that's Daniel Harry, and he also actually did some of the voice work for the Rise audiobook. So he's one of the characters in that, and he's mostly like a working actor and a stage actor. That's mostly what he does. I met him when he auditioned when I was going to film school in New York. But for anyone who hasn't seen Blindfold, it's a 9/11 short film that had me on Corbett like 13 or 14 years ago for the first time, and talking to him about it. And I subsequently met Richard Grove through that. And I was originally doing a little bit of writing for Richard, but it didn't pan out, and that's fine because I was working on Hold Me, and that took all of my energy. So it was one of those things where there was a gradual dabbling and leapfrogging in the truth community going on adjacent to my pursuits of narrative, which have woven in and out of books and movies. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 20-minute film. It's a good short. It's worth the watch. I enjoyed it, and it was well made. And like I said, usually the kids are annoying in short. The girl's really good. I really liked her. She's really cute. I wonder what she's up to these days. You know?
I don't know exactly what she does. It's like I had originally planned on developing Blindfold into a feature film that picked up with those same characters like 15 or 20 years later. Like basically, it starts at the end of that short film, and then it's them after that period of time trying to like represent 9/11 truth basically, and going through the motion. But ultimately that didn't really end up panning out. She was interested in it. I sent it to her. Dan never really got back to me because I think that he took exception to some notes in the script. I would argue that Dan's closer to a normie at this point. But I was also having this conversation on AM Wake Up yesterday, questioning because of how in your face disclosure has gotten, if normies are even going to exist anymore, if it's a gradual death of the normie like ecosystem that is setting in as a result of disclosure becoming this glaring. So I'm really wondering what's going to happen in the long form evolution of where people had previously like invested their identity, you know, because it wasn't just oh, I like this. It's like, no, I am this. And now it's all coming out that it's just the opposite. And it's like, what now, fuckers? Yeah.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because Legal Man who played Mr. Jones, and he had a podcast about how we're all doomed because nothing's happening, even though these Epstein files. I'm like, this stuff takes a little time. And to me, you tell me what you think about this. This Epstein shit, this is like a big moment. Like this is like the toothpaste out of the tube moment, I think. There's no going back from this one. There's something that came out that Leon Black, Israeli billionaire guy, like, I don't even want to say what he did to little kids eating parts of their body. I mean, I can't even read this stuff, and I don't know what's real, what's not real, but we do know that without a shadow of a doubt that we are ruled over by satanic, demonic, child abusing, raping, killing, eating pedophiles. We know that, whatever it is. I don't think we're going back. And I don't know what that means, where we're headed. I've been saying for a long time, and me and Legal Man have a $1 bet by 2030s that I think the U.S. regime will dissolve and we will end up in some sort of a secessionary moment. I think it'll come from the top down. It's not going to be like, we, the people of Connecticut, dissolve from the Union. I don't think it'll be like that. It could be, but I think we're moving into secession. And what that looks like, I don't know. But I think that Epstein thing was a big turning point. What do you think?
Okay, so it's interesting. I've like the last documentary I did was on Mark Passio, so I've had to study satanic ritual abuse and its various different machinations and how that then factors down to a local level, how it's very real. I've also postulated that what looks like it was regurgitated out of the whatever the hell the DOJ even is anymore. Is it just like a Dilbert office building operating on behalf of some Solomon brain parked in the Pentagon? Like, who the fuck knows, you know? So what did they fart out or queef out for us to stick our nose in? And how reliable is that as juxtaposed with the truth, which I've spent a great deal of time actually researching in order to ascertain? I don't fucking know. These people actually are this sick, so yeah, wouldn't surprise me. But at the same time, it does read a little bit like a chat GPT like export of what would 3 million emails be like given the cultural climate of what this project paperclip behind the scenes Nazi-esque brand of culture really is. What would that vampire lair look like if we gave people disclosure about it? It feels as much to me like that as it does the real thing, and that's because at a certain point they all blend together. That's why I've seen people postulate the idea that a lot of those who end up in these kind of ilks and these groups are kind of just like theater kids LARPing, and then some of them will go really extreme and actually go there. And so it's like this mesh labyrinthian web of not really being able to determine truth or fiction, but the fiction is based on a very real truth that goes back to antiquity, that is called the old religion, the nameless religion. It is sort of like a hive mind mentality that gets people in a local way. So think of like if a whale dies at the bottom of the ocean, all of these different creatures that are predatory are going to go there to feast on the carcass. That's kind of like what this almost like inherent force within us sees us do within our own respective realm. And then it becomes this Malthusian, Machiavellian refinement of torture, such that you can swap out nature and nurture for nature and torture. And at that point, once you understand its complete inversion, it's a science. So it's the application of a science that has been occulted from us, that has been the hidden hand that has been abusing us, and they've largely been using filmmaking to do it. So are we at the point wherein, through the revelation of the method of how deep and dark the dark rooms have been, ultimately going to turn everything on its head? Maybe. The question is then, have we been shaken so much as babies that whatever comes out of us is just a reflection of the madness that they wanted to bake in? And that's what I'm worried about, is the idea that they're at successive, sequential, intergenerational eugenic programs that are built into our subconscious. You wouldn't even need a technology to do it. The technology are the stories that we all went through shared together. So I could say a RoboCop meme and you'd get it. I could say a Terminator meme and you'd get it. Those are those stories are technologies. We've been chipped already. So if this is that level of eugenics being played out through our cultural habitats, then it's little different than just cooking with the psychology of humanity. And I see this as the Sabbatean Frankist kind of like revelation of the method, such that they can reveal it, get caught for it, maybe things will change, but who the hell do we become in like 5 to 10 to 15 years from now? That's the question.
Well, that you kind of answered what I think you think the answer to this question is, but that's, to me, is like, why release it? Why would they release those files? Even though they're, right? It's just you think it's just a revelation of the method
I think
type
that
of deal?
fact, so there has to be a certain amount of truth or literally everything falls apart. That's just like how this works. So at a certain point, truth is pretty pervasive. It can be verified and kind of, let's just say that, because it's so ambiguous in the term, but it matters. It really, really, really fucking matters. And at a certain point, you're going to have things come out, so you want them to come out in an advantageous way. And so that's timing, really, and the preparation for that timing. And so I think they're just really good with preparation and really good with timing. So at a certain point, they know that their old guard proprietary class of people that they built up to burn Hindenburg later are basically in a position where that comes to fall. And so how many fall guys do they have in the exodus of an imperial empire that's been building up off of the old religion, kind of like negative energy charge going back to Rome and longer? What the fuck does that look? I'm hoping it's not like the dystopian shit they've made us watch. Maybe we'll actually be able to like human our way out of this, but I don't know what that's really going to look like in a granular way. So what's that going to look like, Drew? You tell me. What's the story for how we respond that isn't the story they wrote for us to think?
You know, you asked me that question. It depends on that day. Am I black pilled or white pilled that day? You know what I mean?
Both. You took them both.
You know what I mean? It depends on you know, I don't know. Some days I'm like, this is just God's writing this and I'm not worried about it. I mean, I think that anyway, but like, that's my opinion. But like, I feel like we're going to win. I feel like that I don't think they're as powerful as everybody thinks they are. I think they're really stupid and really overplaying their hand. But I do have days where I feel like what you just described, where it's like, they're just doing some more, you know, leading us around by the nose some more. And the other thing is that you know, it's interesting. Some days I think the people are idiots, but then every time I go out in public and talk to people, it seems like there's a lot of people who, it's on some level, know that this is screwed up. Now, there are people walking around with their head up their ass, but there are a lot of people that I meet, I don't know what it's like in Edmonton, that really understand that this is, they might be normies, but they still know. I could say we're ruled by evil pedophiles. And I go, yeah, you're right about that, you know. And then maybe they'll say, we need to get somebody in office that's going to blah, blah, blah. They'll do something stupid like that, but they get that there's something wrong. And you only need a small group. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. It's interesting to be alive during this time. I do think that we are on the cusp of something major. I don't know what that's going to look like. It's probably going to be ugly for a little while, but I do think we're on the cusp of it. And I think that the filmmakers like you and I, this is our time. This is our time. Rolling your shoulders at me. I'm telling you, this is our time. You got to. I need you to stand up firm. Start doing some push-ups and let's go.
I'm making a movie right now that's the 9th episode of Conspiracy Synergy that is literally trying to tell the story of our time based on it being a spiritual war that we're all making our decisions to try and exit from a system where we were basically just pushing buttons to get food pellets. And as a result of not seeing those connections, we were getting shot by a doom laser. So it's this rabbit-like fairy tale Pixar movie that I'm filming with miniature sets in my apartment with the staging area over there. And it's the hero's journey of loosely modeled esotericism overlaying the contemporary hero's journey that we're all currently in, like what it is to live through this time period, in a revelation of the method, funny comedic recipe that I can offer people in about a 30 to 45 minute romp. So that's what I'm doing presently, and it'll be the next 3 or so months. But like I said, everything that I'm doing right now is literally like an engineered orchestration of understanding the inevitability of being led into the timeline that they created for humanity. You can think of Back to the Future as like a predictive programming mantra for the level of occultists that are actually running the show in all of this. The ones that you describe who are like full retard, those are like the inbred dumb class, like orcs that you have out in front so that people will go and bang their chest and get really worked up about it. What people are like doing behind the scenes is closer to like a sex magic variant of banging their chest. And that's a more, once again, scientific occultist thing that we don't typically have an orienting view of. And when we do get glimpses of it, it's kind of like the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein glimmers of revelation of the method that they'll give us in a very macabre and downtrodden way. So they'll almost paint knowledge in this really brutal way so that you won't approach the knowledge if you're a bitch. And they've set the entire like industry up like that so that now as it's collapsing, we're supposed to inherit the stage of being the creators of the future, but we ourselves are bumbling fucking retards who are generally speaking going out there telling stories on the level of someone who's making Idiocracy as a documentary. They're not trying to stop it. They're just co-creating it because they themselves are the reflection of it. So myself, I'm always like, how the fuck can I outthink this level of fuckery? How can I outthink what they have done to humanity, what they're trying to do to the next stage of humanity, how they've taken stories, turned them on their head, used them against us, made us worship the people who are in that like storytelling mafia of Hollywood. And then when we try and do it ourselves, so much of the people who try it are just a reflection of that. And so I'm literally just like kind of going crazy trying to figure out the solution to the maze that they've built for the species. I'm not like a normal guy anymore with the stories that I tell. I'm a, what the fuck is going on and how do we win this war? So how do we win this war, Drew? How do we do it?
We need this has come to me recently, and this is, again, another very embryonic idea. Humanity needs a program of recovery from this. I'm not going to call it statism because I hate that word and it's corny, but whatever this is, we need a program of recovery, like AA. In AA, they have 12 steps. That's the program of recovery. Then they have the 12 traditions. So the 12 steps protects the person from alcohol. The 12 traditions protects AA from the person, from people. And if you know anything about AA, it is an anarchist organization. It's a bottom-up run organization, and it's impenetrable. If you went in there and was some tyrant and was like, I'm going to, we're going to start taxing the AA and blah, blah, blah. They would just be like, oh, that's a really cool idea. You should go try that. We're not doing that here. We don't do that. And the way that, I'm not going to go into it now, but humanity needs a program of recovery, which is almost impossible. But that to me actually is something that there is, it's like the Jim Carrey meme from Dumb and Dumber, but you're saying there's a chance. So you're saying there's a chance. We need a program of recovery where you admit that you had a problem. You accept that you cannot, that it's not working, and then we need our 12 traditions that protect us from them. And then they can't do anything. Like AA is like this, it's this most peaceful, like loving, open, accepting place that's also really tough if you don't follow the steps, you know what I mean? But then you can't get in there. It's all over the world. There's like tens and tens of millions of people. Anywhere in the world you go that has alcohol, there's AA meetings. But it's never going to change because of the way that it's designed. It is a bottom-up, self-governing organization. And it's like the most powerful thing. Like you can't break it. They've tried and tried. And anytime somebody tries to break it, they end up getting destroyed or their organization gets destroyed. And that's one thing that hit me and something I'm just started thinking about. So that's something I'm marinating on these days.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely brilliant, and I think you're correct. And some interesting reflections on that as being a viable actual road to get on a species level people in repair to then be able to rehabilitate and reorganize in order to then move along the correct direction, which at this point they don't even necessarily have the mind for or the stomach, given what they have to process in order to get on that road. So it's people, that's why we've seen fentanyl explode, all these other different things. I have this one book going into the history of addictions, and it was talking about how there was this group that preceded the emergence of AA called called the Washingtonians. And the Washingtonians was
That's right.
that they were successful for about 2 weeks or so until people eventually kind of lost their way. And the reason that they found that people were losing their way from that rehabilitation program is that it was ultimately losing or didn't have purpose. And purpose was the thing that ultimately orients us in our greatest rehabilitation on an individual and a societal level. So the idea of something that does offer purpose to people going through a broken world and coming to a personal felt sense of responsibility that can also then be co-created in a way in which it's built and offered to everybody just as a thought structure. Because it seems like the way in which you describe AA is, okay, they because they do these things, therefore they are successful. It's a thought structure rallying cry for a similar template of rehabilitation that can be offered to people through a convergence of things and then get them up to speed so that they can then just operate differently out in reality. And I think that that's like a really great idea. And that's almost like, because Larkin Rose did Candles in the Dark as far as getting people off of statism, which is like a very good and interesting kind of like moving in a similar way almost. And so that's like a really beautiful, like, do you have any, it's just ruminations you're on, you don't have any formal implementation of anything like that? Because
No, it's just
like, okay,
I'm not there yet.
Well,
let me just say something. Let me cut you off for 1 second. The Larkin Rose, I thought about the Candles in the Dark. That could be like a core. If you say we had this program developed, that would be like AA has like getaways or like, you know, camping trips, or you go stay at a hotel and you have speakers. Like that could be like a course or something you could do to help you along our recovery path. Right? Because if you think about a lot of AAs is people had these horrible childhoods or they're abused or whatever. That is what we're dealing right now, technically, is we're dealing with an abusive relationship, right? And all those things that go with it. But anyways, I cut you off.
Okay, so like,
sorry.
Okay, well, to give you, I'm going to jump on a few different points here. Individuals in the movement who I've spoken to that might be relevant insofar as that conversation becoming more of like a Council of the Ring kind of thing, which I think it should be. Get like 30 different people together, have that conversation. How can we create a species-wide rehabilitation program using our convergent skill set or sets within this network that is perfectly situated in order to provide the species with that problem reaction solution in the right direction, which is what it is. Council of the Ring kind of thing. You can think of like Graham. He previously was in addiction. He got out of it, and he was kind of like conjuring some ideas of what he could do for helping other people. That's Graham from Darren and Grimerica. I did a documentary on them. Scott, who's the co-host over at Grand Theft World, he was previously in a rehabilitation in addictions counseling, working with people who had gone through drugs, and so he knows the ins of that in more like a formal way for how it's state run currently. And so it's just a matter of kind of like, I think, getting those conversations going and getting the people involved in them who not only have been through it themselves, but are in a position to rehabilitate it. I can think of Meredith Miller, who we had on AM Wake Up, not this Wednesday, but the one prior to that. She works in trying to extricate people from narcissistic systems of abuse. And the average number of times that someone goes back is 7. So what we're existing in is like the macrocosm of the abusive parent dynamic that so many people will end up in AA because of. And that macrocosm abuse of, one of the terms that Meredith used that is kind of a niche thing, but it's true, was that what we felt in an emotional way during the lockdown period as a result of what was done to us was kind of like a morphogenetic nuclear bomb that was dropped on us. And for people who don't understand the terminology, it's basically like saying that there was this lacerating wound in the very quintessence of our soul bonds that happened in a way in which we did not see it, but it was so profound and devastating that it's akin to dropping nuclear bombs all over the world. That's what was done to us as a form of weaponry via the inculcating a population in the satanic mindset in order to eventually invert them. And we're in the process of that. So I do think kind of like the solution that you've offered and the mesh network of people that we have access to, like Meredith, those 3 off the top of my head, I know for a fact, you know, the people who would be able to fill in the rest of that council. Yeah.
We should put a Circle of the Ring together. I'm glad you like the idea, because when I first thought of it, it kind of hit me. And I was like, this sounds crazy.
No,
there's a lot of things about it. Just getting people to do it, because the enemy is going to try to make us a cult or try to do this or try to do that. So that's part of the process. you have to set it up in such a way. But if you read the Alcoholics Anonymous book or get like a sponsor, and I'm not an expert at it, I'm getting there. It's a divinely inspired book, and it's incredible the stuff the way he wrote the 12 traditions. Like I said, it's impenetrable. It's just amazing. It's everywhere, and it started with like a few guys, and now it's everywhere in the world, and it's like saved millions of people. And the people that it doesn't work for are the only ones that just don't actually go through the program. You know what I mean? And one of the biggest, it's 3 legs of it. So it's fellowship, like, brotherhood of
literally
man.
Is the fellowship of the ring. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And it's the program, and then it's service. Giving to you was so freely giving to others what was so freely given to you. And that's the whole point of it. So it's not judging everybody. We've all been in this relationship. And one of the reasons why we're able to be tortured by this relationship with these control systems is that they have so effectively destroyed our families and our infrastructures and everything that we do emotionally and spiritually, that our relationships with our families are so bad that we are weakened, and we have no protection against them. Everybody's really, it's a bunch of people that are running around that have the maturity of a 12-year-old looking for their parents, and they're able to just step in and abuse them. And so, you look at the COVID thing, and then I'll shut up. That to me was like a societal-wide MK Ultra program.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with Meredith Miller's example of like a morphogenetic nuclear bomb. It was a level of trauma. So like there's this presentation I put together called Electrical Alchemy, and the first part of it is called Deconstructing the World Stage. And if you go to the About section on conspiracysynergy.com, scroll a little bit down, you can see the advanced lecture series there. And the first episode of Deconstructing the World Stage is a reverse engineering of the technology of socializing and filmmaking as an apparatus for delivering nutrients to us. So you can think of like these are a sequence of different studies, but one being like they have a monkey exhibit bonding to the one that has kind of like a comfortable skin layer on it versus the one that is like spiky but has milk and nutrients. So it'll get the food that it needs from the mother doll that is like has the food, but then it's going to go back and it's kind of cuddle with the one that has a skin that's closer to its own. And as in to say that there are certain social dynamics that are built into the habitual entrainment of animals in order to eventually get them to conduct themselves in a certain way via their own bonding protocols. I can give you an example of like Ugandan infants. They'll be right with their own mother so that they'll be smiling within the first few days, whereby infants in the industrialized model will take potentially weeks, if not months, to smile, in the same way in which it's like a fully human experience. So this is a refined art form of deadening us. And what the presentation I'm talking about goes into is that they deaden you in a way so that they can make you feel like the only way to feel alive is the lies that they've created for you to play your part in. And then everybody else goes out there and then they just ad-lib the part that was installed in them before they started to develop at all. And they can't get rid of that. And that's the thing, that we're uprooting something so deep that it goes beyond our own identity into a modality of thought for people that have been trying to elicit from the species something that we have previously not been able to do. And so I really think of this as closer to like a breeding program of like human beings, almost like we're dogs, only they're using in stories and technologies to do it. That's kind of like my take on why we would need a rehabilitations program to get out of that depth. Because if you think of some of the shit that you can literally just watch on Netflix, that's trauma just to watch that. And we call it entertainment. What do we do to be able to get to a point where we're actually acclimated in a reasonable, healthy way that we could even survive in the face of what's become commonplace, So that's just like some reflection.
Oh, what they do would be powerless. If we had a program of recovery, it'd be powerless. Because what they do is, it's so easy for them. It's so easy what they do, but it's impossible if we had a program of recovery.
You think it's impossible because
once you...
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I'm just going to say well, I shouldn't say it's impossible. Those are strong words. I would say society-wide, there would be people that would fall off. There's a saying in AA where it's like a herd of wildebeest, stay in the pack, because the people on the edges of the pack get picked off. There would be, if there was a program of recovery, we could free ourselves from these bonds, and it would be something that we could transcend.
Like, I agree with that, but here's what I'm describing. I think it's even deeper than just the social dynamic. I think it literally gets into what we've been habitually entrained to be aroused by. And so an example of that would be like babies like don't necessarily have the ability to distinguish between the flavor of bananas and their own feces initially, because it's still a blank slate mentality of building. You can use a similar parallel of like cats that were reared for the first 2 weeks of their development in a closed container that only had vertical slits in it. When they got out of that, after that 2 weeks, they could not see horizontal lines. So I'm describing like the incubation period for what comes out of us on a species level, preceding our own emergence of humanity itself. Similarly to like once you get infants lost in like the forest or whatever, and they're like raised by wolves or something, they will fundamentally lack the language skills that they need to reach a point of being able to get that later. So I'm wondering, like, in the process of like, because you're describing how that is a road out. I agree with that, but I think what you'd ultimately have to do at a certain point is understand that it isn't just a social dynamic that we've been poisoned in this way by, it's a moral dynamic. And that's the moral one is the most painful and difficult part of that, because that's when we jump roots from just the habitual socializing thing to the traditional socializing thing, which is religion. And then trying to move from that would basically just be something that's so far outside of people's sphere of reference that they try and kill you if you even go there. So I think that like what you're describing is true, but we'd have to get to the root of what is or isn't moral in order to be able to do it all the way to a spiritual level. Otherwise, we'd just be defaulting to what they tried to prime us towards as animals.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if I didn't make that clear, the thing is, if I'm understanding you correctly, at the end of the day, this would probably be a different answer for a different question, but we have to address the cowardice that led us here. We have to address the ego that led us here, the selfishness that led us here, the godlessness that led us here, all the things we have to address inside of ourselves that led us to this point. Same like an alcoholic, you have to address all those.
So I agree with that. I guess I'm thinking of this book. So Not in His Image, John Lamb Lash goes into Gnosticism and how it's basically thinking of the tradition of mystery religions prior to the consolidation of power in the church, which then stamped them out and persecuted them thereafter. So basically thinking of things in more of an indigenous, tribal, holistic integration with the planety in a way that isn't hippie woo-woo, but basically it's our responsibility to steward the land properly. And doing that in the full culmination of morality will ultimately mean that people wouldn't be like eating animals anymore, as an example. So I'm thinking that that's not something that people are going to let go of in the next like 50 or 100 years without something that would put them in a position where they're poisoned by ticks so that they're allergic to meat now, or any number of other different things. So what I'm saying is that there are certain conundrums so hard baked into the way we identify ourselves. Like people aren't going to stop eating animals. They're going to continue to think that it's moral to do that. And nothing short of having the animal removed from them or becoming allergic to it is likely going to change that. So that's a moral question that goes so deep into the fabric of our social connections that it's borderline can't be uprooted at this current juncture other than through trauma alone. And so that's one of those things where I really pause and wonder, are we responsibly able to have a discussion about morality in an objective sense that tunes into the level of the planet without sabotaging ourselves en route because we're not there yet, you know?
I think you're overthinking it, but I like what you're thinking. But I think as far as the program recovery, you're
okay. But like, well, that's the
you're getting ahead of yourself. You're with the cart before the horse. This is what all alcoholics do when they start out. They would put the cart before the horse. You're overthinking it. We need to have a program of recovery away from being controlled and living in a gigantic.
You're right. I'm thinking of what it
looks
looks like 20 years from now.
Not that it's bad. I'm not knocking what you're doing. I love the way you think. I love how you think.
I'm saying you're right. You're right. I'm doing it. What would it be like 20 years from now? Not what does it need to be this week? Yeah. You're correct. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I love the idea of a circle. What did you call it? A circle of
a council of the ring. It's get people. Yeah.
Council of the ring. Yeah. We need to do something like that. We need to seriously do that because it's not going to happen without action. I've just been kind of marinating on it because I know I'm not ready to put it out yet. You know what I mean? But
Okay. Well, it's a great idea.
You're right. It needs to be like
it's a great idea. You should do it. I'll try and send contacts who I think would be relevant to that conversation, so you can try and host it in whatever forum serves you. To qualify, and I'll throw it right back. The reason I think like this is because it's coming from an initiatic science perspective. I'm not initiated, but basically a lot of the different people I read try and think, all right, how can we get the species on this level? So anytime you have a conversation about species level development shit, when you're like, okay, well, over here, the point that you brought up is so fucking perfect, because it's like, yeah, that's nice and everything, but we're literally trying to get point to people where they're not doing fentanyl and they can even like digest a cheeseburger. We're not trying to get to the point of, are we going to murder the cow? So they're very different conversations. And I really appreciate the stepping back to the here and now in order to be able to have that conversation realistically. And you should do it, man. That's fucking epic. Yeah.
No, I love it. I love when you spin out. That's great. Let me ask you this, because I want to go back a little bit. Hey, by the way, just a quick note. You should do, I was looking at your YouTube channel. Hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. So you mentioned before you're doing a film, is it like live action figurines? What are you doing right now? Can you explain that a little bit?
The narrator guy, talking to this rabbit puppet that was living in a little dollhouse until it realized that it's a bunch of bullshit and it got out. And then it's me talking to about the fact that it's a puppet. And then I send it through a walkthrough so that it can eventually realize the video game of life and how it's supposed to be talking to other people about the spiritual war that we're in. And it's a cycle of reincarnation until ultimately you're able to get it better than you got it before. And it's a combination of live action with me and the miniature rabbit puppet. It's got little kind of cute props like this little couch, stuff like that, so you could just have me there talking to it's like consoling it, stuff like that. So it's like a bunch of miniatures. I've got, here's my wand, I've got all kinds of crap going on with it's like, this one's fun. Did you know you can get LED mini TVs like from Japan, and it's like preloaded with,
he's got little mini furniture.
Yeah, it's hilarious. So
yeah, I know that because my daughter loves that stuff.
Exactly. No, but when you're watching it feels like a Wes Anderson stage play. It gives you that kind of vibe, because it's on a level where it's fantastical but real, and so I can touch on things without it being too hard or difficult, because a lot of the conversation that we just went into from a species level developmental margin of trying to get people up and running, that's why traditionally in esotericism that kind of stuff has been told through fairy tale, because otherwise it's so beyond the scope of what people can imagine that they almost have to co-create it before it's possible to be real. So yeah, it's different levels depending on where people are at.
And you've got, what's it called?
It's Conspiracy Synergy. It's the 9th episode. So like the entire show of Conspiracy Synergy, the last 6 parts of it were the documentary that I did, like going into the various different content creators, Charlie Robinson, Mark Passio. Okay.
So sure. Paul, I'm going to help you here, because this is I think where I can help you, because I think that categorizing, naming, organizing your stuff, it's confused. I was confused when I went.
The YouTube channel.
And you did these. So what you did is you went around the world basically and interviewed these content creators that are very well known, and you like spent a few days with them and lived their lives, and then you did a lot of editing, a lot of work on those. I really liked the Passio one because there was one point where he's like doing this in the car. He's like, I do that same thing. That's like a nervous tick. But anyways, he just cracks me up, that guy. I love that guy. But he gets on his like channel. He just starts screaming at everybody and calling his fans and swearing at his fans and stuff. He just kills me, that guy. He's a crazy Italian guy. But anyways, yeah, so you went around, and so that's called Conspiracy Synergy? Is that what that is?
So my show, conspiracysynergy.com, the first 8 episodes, I only just now put on YouTube in this last week. And the reason is because that was during lockdown era censorship. I would have that shit unlisted in YouTube, and I would get strikes on unlisted fucking videos. I couldn't even use it to share it with people in my own circle. I was already getting censored. That's the level of shit. So I'm hugely shadow banned and everything. So YouTube is, I literally wasn't even on it basically for 5 years or so. And some of the stuff that ended up showing up on it is only put out based on what I can get away with at the time, in essence. The other platforms has been the evolution of Conspiracy Synergy since when it was first posted. So that's like, it's on Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey, the usual staple ones. And then that's more coherent that way.
Okay.
But that's what the censorship regime did to the coherency of my YouTube channel. So now it's kind of just jumbled and out of place. Yeah.
Well, have you thought about doing a cutout of conspiracy theory specifically for those guys, the content creators, because they have big audiences? If you were able to maybe like commodify that as a part of conspiracy theory with a separate name.
You mean Conspiracy Synergy, my show?
I mean, Conspiracy Synergy. I'm sorry. My bad. Yeah, Conspiracy Synergy. That's what I meant. Let me go back. So Conspiracy Synergy is a show. And then within that, you had eight episodes, I think you said, where you interviewed.
No. So it's 8 episodes that
right?
are me in front of the desk, basically doing an introduction for our...
I'm fucking
No, it's totally cool because it ended up working out this way just because of the censorship.
Okay.
So it's one show, but it's kind of come out in different stages. The first 5 years of it were in the COVID era regime kind of thing. And it's me sitting here with a bunch of rabbit puppets and like weird like memes and stuff like that going on to try and explain conspiracy to our friends and family who are, generally speaking, a bunch of pussies. And they don't believe any conspiracies are true, let alone that everything's actually a conspiracy. So it's me trying to like work with them in an emotionally palatable way. And I did that for like 4 or 5 years. And then after that, like I did 8 episodes. There's 2 parts of the 8 episode. The last one took me like 9 months to edit. It's got all of these like effects going on and rabbit puppets once again and like different like gun battles and weird stupid shit like that. That's hilarious. It's the kind of thing that you would be able to watch with your friends and family to get them up to speed about conspiracy. Then for the last year, under the same like website, conspiracysynergy.com, I've gone to visit these various different content creators. And that's how I met Drew, was in Mexico at Anarchapulco. And that's when I was doing the one on Charlie Robinson there. And so the last year of this show has been that format, those mini documentaries. And it's been 6 of those. Now I'm coming back to the 9th episode, which is the one that I'm doing in the same rabbit puppet weirdness of the first 8 episodes that are a curriculum to get the species up to speed on what it needs to know and understand in order to basically save the world. That's the idea. We're saving the world, which is basically your same fundamental paradigm of how can we create a system that rehabilitates the world. I'd argue that that is saving the world insofar as we're able to, but then there are other steps that go along with that. And that's what the progression of the show is, okay, realistically, what are we up against? What are the solutions to that problem? And that's what Conspiracy Synergy has been, is trying to venture that road.
Well, I'm trying to not to get bogged down in semantics because I hate the term saving the world. I'm sure you do too. I'm trying to something to consider. I'm trying to bring. I'm pro human abundance. That's really what I want: a human flourishing and abundance. But whatever. But anyways, I'm saying those 6 episodes where you interviewed content creators. That's a very different thing that you should consider. Do whatever you want. Cut them out and then package them and market them differently. Even if you want to keep them as part of the other show, because they're totally different. They don't have the puppets and all that other stuff. It's a different vibe where you just went and interviewed all these, and they have big audiences. And to get people to see you, it would help if you were able to parlay the audiences of those guys. And if you packaged them really properly with them involved, you might be able to parlay it into many more eyes, and maybe even able to, because analogs become very big. I don't know if I sell DVDs, and the one other thing here, I'll show you. I have one right here. I haven't put these up for sale yet because this was a perk I did for Barnum World. But these, where is it? Yeah, see these are jump drives. So that says Barnum World, and that says Drew Media. This is going to have a 1080 HD. I didn't do 4K, it's too much. Half people can't even play them. 1080 HD version of the film with 2, a copy of each. I have 2 posters for the movie. A copy of the poster in full res so they can go print them if they want. And then it has another 18 gigs on it if they want to do whatever they want with it. So it's like buying a flash drive. And these are going to be $19.99. I'm going to sell them, or $20 or whatever. See, that's something you could do, because we've talked about making money. I'm transitioning into making money and trying to finance. That you could take those 6 episodes, package them, because people are really afraid of the internet going down with good reason. And so people really like analog stuff right now. You're providing something to people. Something to consider is you package them, put them on a jump drive, for example, and then all of those guys you interviewed, throw them a cut. If they promote it, you throw them a cut. You give them a piece of the action when they sell it. With their give them a coupon code. You make some money out of it. You know what I mean? Who knows? You might cover your rent next month. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you on every point that you make. It's just like, and this is probably just my own personal failing. I fucking hate branding. And because of that, I avoid doing it as well as I should. And so it's one of those things where the caliber of work is solid. Generally speaking, you know, everyone has their own preferences and whatnot, but for the most part, I do good work. And it's one of those things where I'm under the impression supposed to be something there that then orients a voluntaristic participatory mesh network of distribution that looks very different than the current model that we have. But then I remember that the trends are set by the distributors and that people get used to that and then they go out and do it themselves. So I completely agree with every single point. It's just a failing of my own because I hate branding. You're right about everything you said.
Well, that's
no, it's not my ego. It's something that I suck at and that I hate doing. And I think that ultimately it's like, because the more I do that, the less I'm able to be.
I don't believe you suck at it. Why would you suck at it?
No. Hear me out.
Why are you going to be bad at that?
It's because it's viewing things, and this is like, it's like, I'm agreeing with every point you're making. What I'm talking about is almost like this other thing. And it's the idea of how we go about making money. Because I only accept donations. That's the only way I'm able to make any money, is if people give me money for doing stuff, which means that I'm extremely poor. I know.
I hate that. I fucking hate that. I saw you do that value for value horse shit. You're not a husker playing a banjo in New Orleans on the street corner, bro.
Right.
You're a man and a filmmaker. You charge what you think your shit's worth, and the market will decide whether it's worth it or not.
So here's how that works.
Sorry.
That's not the reality. That's the way they want us to play reality, so that we end up fucking ourselves and each other by making that reality. It's the reality. It's the reality. I'm not disputing. Am I going to go and I have this conversation to pay for lunch later, or am I going to hand over the $20 bill? It's going to be the $20 bill. It's the reality. No fucking dispute. What I'm talking about is thinking of it in the sense of what is the mark of the beast? The mark of the beast is the market itself. You can think of that in the traditional sense of the agora, which is the Greek word for an open air market. And that's something that's seemingly removed from statism in its imprint. You can think of the idea that money is a talisman, and it has all of this like metaphysical imprints on it and its usury and all that kind of stuff. Sure, fine. And that's all true. But where I come at it from is basically the idea that, well, this is a war, right? Like right now we are in a war. In a like full spectrum dominance, like 5th generational warfare, all the marbles, species level war, right? For me to charge for that right now feels like it's fundamentally morally wrong and abhorrent. And so all of the things that I've gone about orchestrating myself to do at this juncture are built around making it as free and accessible as I can. Have I branded it as well? No. Absolutely, I have not. So you're like, I agree with all of your points. And that is the reality. That is how people pay for it. But we're supposed to be in a mentality where we understand, wait a minute, this is actually an all the marbles war where we're actually supposed to support each other, where we're supposed to care about it enough in order to go to that level. And then because that's ultimately where it aligns on a metaphysical level, then that becomes the only road forward for us all. And that's something that people who need to pay their groceries don't want to fucking hear about because they just need the goddamn $20 bill in their hand. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you want to keep making stuff?
Like my personal take on it is that I don't actually give a fuck if I'm able to make anything, because what I should make should be proportionate to people loving it and caring about it so much that they want me to make it. And until I've made an environment where you want me to make it, I don't give a fuck whether I make it or not. It's not like, am I going to go chase this dream? It's, am I uniquely situated through my skill sets and my ability to give them away to help everybody a priority that other people should rally around? And so I approach it in the more that mindset rather than how can I make it premium to attach a price tag to, even though that is the short-term way to get more bills in your hand, and you're completely correct in every way.
No, what I'm saying is that you can take all, first of all, let me be clear. I don't think that we live in some free market. When I said the market will decide, I wasn't saying that we're in a free market environment. I know that's all horseshit. But what I'm saying is you can create a marketing strategy that fits your personality and what you want to do. And you should not be afraid to, what you're saying, it can also, it's a perspectival change. Like it's all fake digits anyway. Just get, you want to have abundance so you can create more stuff so more people see it. The thing about it is, and I learned this, I gave Born and World away because of the Indiegogo campaign promise. it did not help it get seen more. In fact, people, I don't want to say disrespect it, but when you say it's free over here, it's almost like it's actually better to have an entrance fee. People will respect it more. I know that sounds crazy, but they go, oh, this is a real, when it's given away, there's like another YouTube video. I don't want to, and I was like, no, this is actually a film.
You're describing it perfectly. And I agree with that. People have been acclimated to the way in which they expect something from an environment as who they are in that environment. And because we've all been brainwashed to think exactly like that, and people do respond exactly like that. It's the same thing with, like, if you're going to have a film, you need to have, like, it's won this festival, it's been in this festival, blah, 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 based on, like, the market that it's applying to. If it's, like, a comedy or, like, horror, nobody really cares about that. It's like, oh, it has tits and blood. It's like, tits and blood. You know, so you need your sales pitch to go along with the reality of how people are used to engaging with a market. But the reality of the market for the truth movement is supposed to be this. And it isn't. And that's what Passio's so pissed about, that he's literally yelling at the people on the screen. It's that you're supposed to up your game to a level of understanding where we're literally slaves who are being slowly inbred and murdered, proportionate to the degree to which we do not live in alignment with objective morality. And that's only going to get worse. And everything that we do that ignores or neglects that is us fundamentally failing on an individual and a species level. So in order to be able to do the thing that I'm doing, I literally have to make it free and accessible to absolutely everybody. I can't spend any of my energy on market stuff. I need you to care enough to give me the $20 in my fucking hand so I can just go back and do the creative thing all the time. Everything you're saying is true, Drew. I'm just talking like this because I love you, and it's coming at like the world species-saving dynamic of being pro-people and then thinking, how can we escape the pure evil that is the distributors setting the tone for how people approach anything at all, you know? Because that's what they've done. They've made it so that we need to pay for something to see it as valuable rather than being willing to give something because we see it as valuable.
I don't know if that's true. I think that could be actually just be human nature, where scarcity creates interest. I look, this is a big conversation. I can't convince you on a podcast, but I need to think about it and marinate on it. I know that I can convince you to have a different perspective change. But one thing I would say is you might want to consider, I don't know if you have anybody in Edmonton to do this, is get somebody involved to help you put your stuff out.
That's true.
So so you don't even look at it. Somebody you trust and let them do it. That's something to consider.
No, like I agree with that. That's what I'm saying is like, you're totally correct about everything.
Let's do that shit.
No, like you're totally correct about all that. And that's you're completely correct. I guess I just use it as a point of reflection on like because it's like the idea of the revolution will not be televised. Is that because it's not on television or because they gave it away for free and they charged you $50,000 to watch the fight from two people who don't matter that it's rigged anyway? You know, it's like they've created this cultural vortex that we're all circling the bowl of. And that's kind of just like what I'm reflecting on in the process of trying to make movements that aren't just bowel movements. And that's really ultimately what storytelling has the power to do. So we're supposed to find that like Power Ranger fucking yippee-ki-yay, let's get the job done kind of mentality. But we don't do it because we keep going back to the market that has made its mark on us so much that we conduct ourselves in accordance with it. And that's some thing that it's just a bunch of old bullshit. But you're right about every point you make. Yeah.
You're not wrong. I mean, the marketing thing, it's always a situation where it's like, I got to market this thing. Am I now like the cheap salesman guy? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's always that line, like, I don't want to lose my integrity, but I want to make sure that I see as many people as possible. And like, I've been on stuff and shows where like, boy, he's not that. And I'm like, I don't care. I want people to see the film. And if he's a big audience, I will go on his show. I talk to people from the PBD podcast. I had a conversation with one of the guys on his podcast, and I told somebody like PBDs and blah blah blah. I don't give a shit. I'm not here to judge PBD. I want that thing gets out on PBD, it's lights out. And imagine how many people would see that, how it could change. I get emails from all over the world. I had people from Kazakhstan watch the film, the Ukraine, writing me, telling me, man, this thing, I've never seen anything like this. And like, I know that I have people tell me it's the best film they've ever seen. I know for a fact that's not even remotely true. I know films, but I'm just saying that they're just so sick of what they see. They see something that's nothing like that they see anymore. And they can know that the filmmaker is not against them. They can know that the filmmaker doesn't hate them. You know what I mean? So I just want to see you make more shit. So let me ask you this, two questions. We're coming up on time. I don't want to take too much of your time. So Crazy Eddie, we're going to be making that. Everybody's involved, but they're waiting. You know, as long as I keep building the magnet, you know what I mean? It'll attract more and more people. But What's your job going to be on the film? Are you going to be the documentary behind the scenes filmmaker guy? What am I going to hire you
I'm not
for?
someone.
You're getting paid on my
I'm not
set too, by the
someone
way.
you want to work with unless you're ready to get your ass handed to you and your nuts like KO'd on the regular. I'm a brutal, lacerating motherfucker who, if you want to put to work, I will. But it's going to be a workout just having to talk to me and deal with me at all. What do you need help with that you want me to turn your balls blue?
Okay, two things on that. You have no idea what you're dealing
I've
with.
met you. You booed me on stage. That was hilarious. Like, that's how I met Drew. It's like we were doing this like director's panel in Anarchapulco, and like I took the mic and I said something that was like really good, and everyone else loved it, and there was like profound, and it was like a meaningful human experience. No. Okay, so it was a profound and meaningful human experience for the entire audience. And Drew's up next, and he's sitting there next to me, and he's like mildly booing me, and it was the funniest thing in the world. Like, I almost pissed myself laughing, but it's like, and then he's up and he says something that's great too, because Drew's great. But it was like just a really funny introduction to the guy of him booing you on stage when he's up next in line.
You're like, yeah, you're like, what the fuck are you booing me?
No, I thought it was hilarious. I knew who you were. It was really funny. Yeah.
Yeah. I knew you'd get the joke. No, I would say that I would want you to do what you just said. I could tell. And I know that you direct too. So I'm not going to want you to, but I would say that you could do the behind, because I want to have the behind the scenes series. You'd be behind the scenes guy. So you're like making your own documentary series of the making of the film.
I think you'd want like a group of film students running that job.
No. This needs to be like cinema. This is important stuff.
Like, I don't know. Like the documentaries that I did for the idea of doing a behind the scenes documentary on a film. I don't know if I'd be the right guy for that. I'd be like trying to make my own film out of your film.
There you go.
No, do you know what that means? That means that I'd be like trying to turn actors against you. So it'd be like, how long until we could make Drew go completely crazy?
Well, that wouldn't be good. No, that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good. All right. Well, I can't imagine you working as like lighting guy or something. That's not gonna work.
Yeah, no, I'll be the guy. No, I'll be the triangle guy. If you've ever seen an orchestra, it's like the triangle guy is basically sitting there focusing until he does one thing once and then just puts his instrument away. But it's really intense until he plays the triangle. So I'll be that guy. Yeah, exactly. Guy. Something like that. Whenever you need someone around to do something reliably once and be a total buzzkill until he does it, I'm good for that.
Well, okay. So you got anything else you want to talk about? Did I miss anything? I'm trying to remember if I missed anything.
Yeah, for those who don't know, it's like I've hung out with Drew in Mexico, and we joke around like this because we care very deeply about all the same things, basically. And so it's one of those things where we could literally talk about anything in any direction that you want to go on your show. So whatever you feel like rounds out the conversation, throw it in.
I was going to go into some stuff about Hold Me and euthanasia, but I thought, you know what? We'll save it for the next conversation. That's going to be too much.
That's fair. It's a really heavy film. Like the way just how depressing it is. It's so fun.
Yeah. Well, do you need, I'm going to say it for the 7th time. You need to seriously, I know what I want. This is a question you don't have. Actually, I'll ask you after we go off the air. I got a question for you, but I'll ask you after we get off the air. So, okay, so where can people find you? And we're going to do this again if you're up for it.
We can talk about whatever you want to talk about for however long you want to rant and make people go insane trying to follow two people as far out there as we are. But it's always an honor and a privilege.
Yeah, I wonder if people are like, what the hell are these two idiots talking about?
Well, I don't know what your audience is. I'm assuming they're very well-informed people. I'm assuming they're like really well-informed people who know our general vortex of conversations, who these people are, stuff like that. Like if we say Passio, someone who's just in the door would be like, what the fuck? Like, what is that?
Well, that's good though too. Then they'll go, Passio, and they'll look them up, and then they'll find.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's always that.
I just mean in the sense of.
But no, you're right. It's not a normie audience. Not generally a normie audience.
Yeah, exactly. That. So that's what I mean is like when you have a conversation on a level where you assume people are already in the know. That's what it is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
so.
Right. Yeah. The other person that should be in our circle of don't tell me again. Don't tell me what it is again. Tell me what it is again. I don't follow that series. What is it again? The group that we should put together, the circle of the key.
It's Council of the Ring. Yeah.
Council
So it's just it's a Lord of the Ring reference. That's what they got everyone together, like all the hobbits. Yeah, the Council of the Ring. Yeah.
We need to come up with something like that. We need to come up with that, and we need to go to a hotel for a weekend and have a brainstorming weekend. I'm not joking, actually.
I think that it would probably be an open source like thing almost, because otherwise it's like people.
It should be people that really know to begin with, and just because the good thing, not to come up with it, but one of the biggest things for me is all of the. We're talking again. We're back on the program of recovery for human beings. All the snags. There's so many snags you've got to watch out for. You know what I mean? To make it successful. Like one of the things they do in the beginning of an AA meeting is not always, but they always say there is no. I'm paraphrasing it, but the basic thing they say is that the people that started this are not our leaders. They're just advisors, and they're like basically like, you know, if you had a program of recovery for human beings, we would have leadership. We'd probably have like a Council of the Ring. You know, of the wisest and best people among us advising us, you know what I mean? And then let's see what happens. We wouldn't have rulers. You know what I mean? Children have rulers. They have parents. We would have leaders. We would choose, or they would naturally, you know, froth up. A lot of people, because everybody wants answers to these questions. And it's like, if you're bleeding, I've heard this analogy. I didn't come up with this. I think Legal Man did. If you're bleeding out on the battlefield, okay, you know, we're in tyranny right now. Like, I just want to be stitched up. The guy comes up to me to stitch me up. I'm going to be like, hold on. If we stitch me up, then what are we going to do? Are we going to go to the hospital? Where are we going next? And I need to know all the things we're going to do down the road. I'm like, we are in tyranny right now. We need to stitch ourselves up immediately before we bleed out.
Yeah, that's generally my sentiment going through this motherfucker, and I'm basically furious and crushed with everyone else who doesn't understand it on that level, to a point where the emotional exhaustion of trying to get anything to register with the people next to me is the thing that kills me internally. And that's how I feel all the time, is the gradual residual bleed of being around those who, from a dark Luciferian perspective, are called the dead or the unbegun. It's like we're the living dead just walking around. I call it Planet of the Apes already. So, yeah, it's a pretty bleak situation. We need to get people to give some Charlton Heston level performances in order to break out of the trance.
I like it. Charlton level Heston. So Crazy Eddie is our generation's version of Dirty Harry. It's a vigilante film, except for the police aren't corrupt, and he's dealing with... The whole system is a system of corruption. That's the design. So he leaves the force, and his brother is still in like high up in the bureaucratic infrastructure, starts bringing him these cases of people that they're letting go on purpose for various reasons. And then there's a whole understory. There's a serial killer. And anyways, where can people find you?
Yeah. So
one more time.
For anyone who doesn't know me, I've been around for a while. I pop up on the various different podcast circuits. I've been on Union of the Unwanted a bunch of different times, kind of just in the community, but at the same time, I've been really shadow banned, and I'm not like one of those big traction people. So if you do want to support indie artists, I am hugely indie. I definitely need your support, because I don't even go out there and try and market. I just rely on donations in order to be able to make it. And that's something that I think is worth it, because what I'm trying to make it for is a better future that we co-create together along similar lines to what Drew was describing with his rehabilitation program. That's why all of my stories touch on controversy. That's been kind of like the central point of what I do with the storytelling lens, is to allow us to view the world through that lens so that controversy becomes like shared and palatable. So 4 different kind of segments of that. Teace.ca, teace.ca is where you can read a lot of the different books that I've written, that short films, the feature film, the show that I make now, audiobooks, stuff like that. That's teace.ca. That's my entire artist history that you can go out and check out there for free. I've put everything up in a way in which, please do support me if you like any of it. If you don't, whatever. Send me $500 and tell me you hate it. I don't care. That's kind of you. But that's one place, teace.ca. Another one, if you want to watch the film we were talking about, Hold Me, that's holdmethemovie.com. That's up there online for free. That was featured on Corbett replacing Hollywood's solutions watch that way as a general extension of the ongoing conversation, conspiracysynergy.com. And then lastly, I'll just say I'm AM Wake Up co-host on Wednesdays, and that's on Rumble. You can find that through the conspiracysynergy.com. So that's a lot of different like avenues and offshoots, but I do a lot of different things in a lot of different directions. And it's all built around the idea of the human conversation and trying to get people to level up.
Yeah, and we'll have all those links in the show notes for the delight of the audience. And remember, he only takes donations at this point because, so, you know, if you see his stuff, give him some money if you've got it. And this is the last little thing I'll say to you about that, a little tidbit, is what I have done is when you have it for sale, you can say, hey, if you can't afford this and you really want to see it or whatever you're selling, contact me. And because if everybody says I can't afford it or I'm not going to do it, I will give it to them for free. I mean, if there's
no, like I did that for a while. Like Hold Me has been free. It's technically available on iTunes, like Amazon, whatever. But when you pay for it through those platforms, they keep half of it. I had it for free the entire time, and I'd actually contacted, like, it's been used in schools to provoke conversations surrounding doctor-assisted dying. So it's one of those things where I've done the free model up at all times, but it's like people's minds, they're just built around, okay, where do I put the money? that's just, where do I put the money? Yeah.
Scarcity, baby. Scarcity. And you deserve it.
Yeah, you put the money here.
You know, you deserve it. You put hours and hours and hours and years of your life and time. You deserve to have, you know, the currency, the medium that we have to deal with at this point. All right, brother. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me on. Great talking to you as always, Drew. Boo.
Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the show. You can follow me on Twitter if you want at Tregsman with 2 G's and an S, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Drew Media TV. We also have a Rumble channel, Drew Media, if you prefer there. I know a lot of people don't like YouTube. Also, if you're listening to the podcast, like on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, if it's not too much of a pain and you like the show, give it 5 stars so we can get some help from the algorithm. Otherwise, all the other links to our social media will be in the show notes, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.